Canada is one of the largest countries in the world, second only to Russia. Most people know only a couple of facts about Canada. Its flag has a maple leaf on it, everybody loves hockey, and Canadians speak both English and French. However, this country is much more interesting than that. Some things make it similar to Russia. Same boreal forests, cold weather, and bears. Although, to be fair, it has way more in common with its closest neighbor, the United States. But how Canada was founded? Canada was originally inhabited by Native Americans and Inuit tribes. Their ancestors got to the mainland from Alaska and eastern Siberia, which at the time was connected to America by the frozen Bering Strait. Interestingly, Vikings were the first Europeans to visit Canada. Viking sites dated 10th to 11th century have been discovered on the island of Newfoundland, but their colonies did not last long. They died out due to cold snap and clashes with the locals in the 12th to 13th century. After that, no Europeans set foot on that land for a long time, until the Age of Discovery in the 15th century, following the famous voyages of Christopher Columbus. The British government sent expeditions in search of sea routes to Asia. Italian explorer Jean Cabot, who embarked on one of these expeditions, first landed in Bonavista. For some time, that island was considered a part of Asia. That very expedition marked the foundation of English colonies in Canada and the subsequent development of this region under British rule. But the Brits weren't the only one with their sights on North America. France was also interested in exploring Canadian lands. In one decade, the French visited and discovered Newfoundland and the entire Gulf of St. Lawrence. And after the expeditions along the St. Lawrence River, Jacques Cartier claimed these lands as French territory. He named it Canada, which in a local dialect means settlement. While British colonies grew rapidly along the Atlantic coast, French trappers and explorers were steadily advancing inland. In 1682, an expedition down the Mississippi River to its mouth entitled France to a vast stretch of land bordering the American colonies from the Great Lakes and the Ohio River to the Gulf of Mexico. The constant rivalry between the two European countries led to a war that lasted from 1745 to 1763. It started in Canada and spread to Europe by 1756. In 1762, Britain and France signed the Treaty of Paris, which transferred Canada, among other colonies, to the British. France renounced control of the territories, and despite the dominantly French population, Canada became a part of Britain. Unfortunately, cultural and religious differences soon reached a boiling point. Conflicts were inevitable, so to keep the peace, Catholic French and Protestant British decided to divide the land in two. The colony of Quebec was split into English-speaking Upper Canada, now the province of Ontario, and French-speaking Lower Canada, now the province of Quebec. The British tried to achieve a dominant position in Canada. They insisted on electoral privileges and tried to limit the influence of the Catholic Church. They used harsh, sometimes even cruel methods to achieve their goals. Although the French made up a majority of the population, Brits accounted for only a quarter of government posts in the colony. Rebellions broke out in Upper and Lower Canada. Both sides tried to establish a government with a broader constituency. In 1840, Great Britain decided to merge two colonies into one and establish a united Canada with a responsible government. From that point on, the colony began to gain more and more independence. In 1849, the Canadian Reform Party issued an act that guaranteed compensation to all Canadians who had suffered losses during the rebellions. This was a huge leap toward the country's independence. Soon, Canada established a so-called responsible government, which could pass laws without Britain's approval. In 1896, 3 Canadians found a huge gold nugget in the Klondike River. This sparked one of the most widespread gold rushes in the world's history. 40,000 people traveled there to try their luck. In total, the prospectors found gold worth 50 million Canadian dollars. The Klondike Gold Rush had a significant impact on the history of Canada. Its cities expanded, provinces welcomed new immigrants from Europe, the government became more liberal, and the country's economy flourished. Industry and agriculture took off. Officially, Canada gained independence in 1931, but everyone considered it a free and independent country long before that. So much so that after World War I, it joined the League of Nations. The Statute of Westminster was passed on December 11, 1931, and granted Canada complete political independence from Britain. Then the country joined the Union of Sovereign Nations under the British Crown. However, Canada's streak of luck was soon interrupted by the Great Depression that had spread from the US. At the same time, Canadian provinces were suffering from severe droughts. Unemployment skyrocketed, with a quarter of the male population unable to find jobs. After World War II, where Canada fought against Germany, the economy rebounded. A large number of immigrants from various regions like Asia, Europe, and India came to Canada. Then the government adopted and raised the new flag of the country, which did not change since. In the early 1980s, the country's administration was officially transferred from Great Britain to Canada. Nowadays, Canada has a great reputation. It is a member of the UN,